Ross Ulbricht is serving a double life sentence without parole for all nonviolent charges for creating a website. Please help free this peaceful man. Go to freeross.org and sign and share the petition.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dissecting Liberty podcast. Today we have a special guest, Dark Tom Woods. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're a bit of a legend in the Twitter universe, and some podcasts and all that. So if you wanted to just talk about kind of how you got started with the Dark Tom Woods account.
Well, yeah, sure. Well, the first people to name a creature called Darton Woods were, of course, the Fagcast on one of their episodes, and that one got deleted. So they started blaming the guy known as Darton Woods, and since I already wanted to have like sort of a parody account, yeah, I made it, and yeah, people like it apparently.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. What was your introduction to libertarianism and just the liberty movement in general?
It's interesting question. It's. I mean, I really just. I mean, there's sort of two introductions. One that actually led me to, becoming the anarcho-statist that I am, and one that was like the first time I heard. So I went to high school with one guy who was a libertarian, talking with him a little bit about that, but didn't really lead me to anything. But some time ago, someone, I was sort of floating politically, and someone mentioned in a political group just the word minarchism. And being fond of our Lord and Savior Google, I of course checked it out, and I've never really had any problems with just having unconventional beliefs. So it was like, that makes sense. And later, I believe it was a Molyneux video that put up minarchism against anarchism, and I saw like, that makes even more sense. So yeah. That's
So what would you say is the most attractive thing about libertarianism to you? Is it just like the logic of it, or like are you just kind of one of those leave me alone type guys, or what?
I mean, it's really nice to have a place to communicate with fellow autistic people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also it's it's the more, it's how it's not based on what you want, and more like on more objective and logically derived, somewhat at least. Yeah.
Right, like
Conclusions.
praxeology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I really like the at least admirable attempt at what's it called, our argumentation ethics that Hoppe did, for instance, because that would be like the perfect kind of political philosophy for me, at least, because yeah, it's safe in that I know it's true, because it
Right.
can't be not true, right?
Exactly. Yeah. With the argumentation ethics, it's just like, why are you arguing this? Because it's self-defeating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it like? I know on Twitter you've well, it sounds like maybe
Hello.
Cotton Archist is with us.
Hello.
Good day, Cotton.
Good day. How's it
Hey,
going,
man.
guys?
Pretty good.
Good.
We're actually recording right
What a
now. We
miss.
just went over kind of just Tom's introduction into libertarianism and what he thinks is like the most attractive thing about libertarianism, kind of what brought him in and all that.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so you're a little bit late to the interview because of what was that?
So I live in an apartment with 3 other guys, and on campus, on a university campus, and school is canceled, and they're making everybody get out. And I'm leaving tomorrow, and I am 95% packed yesterday. Like, I'm ready to leave. But people aren't like me. It's a real shame. They, everything is very last minute, and man, they were here for 5 hours, just like packing very slowly and speculating about the virus and freaking out, and they just left. I'm happy.
Right. I mean, yeah, it was the same for me on Thursday. Like, suddenly all the schools closed down here,
Yeah.
and everyone had to leave, and I also live on like a campus, so yeah.
It's highly annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
so
we're making it.
it sounds like someone's moving a cord around.
Oh, man. All right. My bad.
No, it's all cool. I just wanted to let you know.
Things are crazy. Society's breaking down. There are no more podcasting norms. Everything's out the window.
So, Tom, what's
Yeah.
what's the messaging that your government is putting out there? Is there like a theme going on?
Right. So, well, first, I probably have to say that I live in Norway, so that's what this, counts for. And yeah, in general, what the government tells us now is that we have to, well, sort of isolate ourselves as much as possible. Some by force, some voluntarily. Yeah, and also that the country and, well, hence the economy is gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be walking like a turtle, not a rabbit,
Yeah. No, I don't know if you saw this, but today, which is March 14th, Trump tweeted out just like the two words social distancing. Is that something that's also is that a term that they've been using there?
Social distancing, like, do you have any more specific?
Yeah, so basically the idea is that you keep your social interactions to a minimum and I see
Just don't
yeah,
be around
maybe
people.
go online rather than making contact with others.
Yeah, in general, that's now encouraged by the powers that be, and in some specific cases, it is even mandated. Well, for instance, all education institutions in the entire country have closed down now, and yeah, people will receive lessons from the teachers through like Skype and stuff, which is sort of surprising because teachers generally are as incompetent as not being able to turn on a computer, much less use Skype.
Yeah, people were joking around here that the computer science majors are going to get a real workout because we're going to have to do online classes. I don't know how it's going to work, but we're moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay. Now, would you say that most people are taking this virus going around? Would you say that they're taking it seriously, and like specifically the government messaging, or do you think they're a little bit more skeptical?
I think most people are skeptical to the idea that it's gonna be continuing in this trajectory. So, like, I think most people believe like the official numbers of how many are infected, which Norway is actually at second place for like how many infected there are in the world compared to how many people there are in a given country.
Okay.
So we're having some of the worst times. So like people generally believe that, but I don't think people expect it to continue skyrocketing.
Right.
So
Yeah. So did you have any questions, Cotton, or?
Well, I'm looking at a live map right now, and it says on here that there are 155, roughly 155,000 people confirmed infected by the virus, about 6,000, almost 6,000 deaths, and 72,500 people recovered. So,
yeah,
you want to
that's
look up how
probably
many
right.
people. You want to look up how many people die a year from the flu? I know that's like a meme at this point, but like unless you are immunocompromised or you have some other, you're in another high risk population. Like if you're in China, I would definitely be worried because there's no healthcare there worth a damn.
Well, it's universal and it's free.
Yeah, so it's just bad for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sure the quote unquote president of China goes to a public free healthcare provider. I'm sure, of course. But I mean, I still think I've been saying this for a while, and I still think it's true. That the biggest problem with this is just the panic. Like I went to several grocery stores today, and the paper products, toilet paper and whatnot, the hand sanitizer and the alcohol is just ravaged. There's very little left. Everybody's getting drunk and wiping their butts.
Right.
So,
I mean, the alcohol might actually be because you can use it as sanitizer. So
yeah, but like these people are buying, like, I tweeted this out the other day and it was real. I really saw this. I saw a group of French people and French students in a gas station. They were buying Newport cigarettes and like 3 cases of Corona beer. I don't think they were prepping. And I know the bars around here are doing very well because people are dumb. I know a lot of people are planning now that they got time off. They're going to party and they're going to go to Florida for spring break, and they're just
Right.
so dumb. Like I'm ready to get home and just like hang out and watch movies.
Yeah, that's probably the safer thing to do. Yeah. Here the bars are all closed down now, so people aren't going to them. But it seems like most people aren't actually restricting themselves unless they are like at a high risk,
Yeah.
like in a high risk group or actually quarantined.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the student population in Norway, but the student population here in Louisiana specifically, and southern Louisiana even more specifically, are so dumb. They're complete idiots, and yeah, they're all partying, and they're taking this as if it was just spring break. And I mean, like, I don't think there's that much to worry about with the virus. Like, if I caught it, I wouldn't be super worried. I would be worried about infecting other people. And that's what they need to pay attention to. That's the most dangerous thing about the virus is that you might contaminate other people that don't have as good of an immune system as a younger person does. And that's
Yeah.
the most scary thing around this virus.
Yeah, it's the boomer-bonic plague.
Exactly.
So, Tom, you said that some people are being forced into quarantine.
Yeah.
Are there any other measures that seem more authoritarian than usual going on in Norway? And yeah, if you want to just expand on just the forced quarantining, etc.
Yeah. Well, in general, as I said, like schools are shutting down, bars are shutting down, also hair salons are shutting down, and these are all like mandatory shutting downs.
Okay.
Like people are shutting down by their own will too, but yeah, these are mandatory shutting downs. People who have, well, of course, the ones that are confirmed infected are quarantined, and people who have had, yeah, some amount of contact with an infected person after that person has been after that person has been infected are quarantined as well. So, like, I know one person that was just on a plane with a person that turned out to have the carbonada virus or whatever you call this. And yeah, so no, that person is quarantined as well, even though she probably doesn't have it.
Yeah. So I know that at least for me, my biggest concern in the United States is I'm not really all that worried about the virus. I don't think any of us three really are so much. But yeah, the biggest concern here in the United States for me is that the government is going to use it to kind of put some restrictions and like just kind of, they're going to say, oh, we're going to take away this and uh, exercise some authority, in this area, only temporarily, but it's just one of those things where it's, like a creeping authoritarianism. Uh,
Yeah, it's
Right.
like another 9/11.
Yeah,
Right.
or like that hurricane that you had, where people were like being red flagged just because of the hurricane
Mhm. Yeah,
was
Katrina.
nearby. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened in my state. I remember that.
Yeah. So, well, that's really not my biggest worry, although that is one of them. It's more, the the society like collapsing, because well, I'm not gonna do very well without food and, well, water and yeah, stuff like that. Although my parents, which I am now staying at since my school has closed down, are prepping quite a bit for the eventual collapse of like, I guess, grocery stores.
Yeah, and that's one of the big topics that we kind of wanted to talk about with you. Um, so you said that they live in a rural area, and
Yeah.
so the chances of you being infected are much less likely. Um, you said now, did you say that they live near like a source of fresh water, right?
Uh, well, uh, well, I don't think it's fresh. No. We do live near a fjord. The special bodies of water that are in Norway, but they are more like extensions of the sea than lakes or anything. But you can use them if you have like a water distiller, or you can boil water to make it drinkable. And of course you can fish in it, which is the big one, because Norway is far from capable of supporting its own population in terms of food, uh, in most aspects at least, because there's too many mountains to grow anything most places. But fishing, that works.
Yeah. And you also said that you guys have some guns, right?
Yeah.
So you can do a little bit of hunting.
Yeah, well, if we would, like, there's not a lot of wild animals around here, so while we could do a bit of hunting, it's significantly less effective than fishing, at least. But of course, one of the big advantages of having guns here is that you're actually capable of defending yourself if push comes to shove.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then I don't know. Do you guys have a garden, or is that something that's in the plans? Or
Yeah, we do, sort of. It's not really a big garden or anything. So We don't get much of our supply from it, but yeah, we do. So if this was a crisis that would, cause the boog or any other, actual collapse of the current systems, then we probably could have used that for some time.
Yeah. Now, do you have any neighbors nearby that you could cooperate with, barter with, stuff like that? Just, like, let's say, just over the long term,
Yeah, we do live in a neighborhood, which, people are generally friendly here, so I don't see why not. It will only be like if people actually had, the matter would be if people actually had things to bother with. Most of our neighbors are not growing stuff or having any animals. Although it's not really that far until the nearest farm, though. So, yeah.
So I'm going to ask one last question before I see if Cotton wants to ask anything. Are you optimistic in terms of how your local community will, I guess, either come together, cooperate, stuff like that, if you have to kind of remain in lockdown or whatever for the next few months?
Yeah, I think so. We have a thing called dugnad here in Norway, which is sort of a voluntary work that a community does together, and it's while that was a very big thing before, it's sort of died down recently in general in Norway, but in my local place, it's still, sort of strong.
All right, yeah.
I'm more worried about like difficulty getting food and stuff at this moment, because like my parents are trying to stock up on some stuff, and they were saying just trying to find raw chicken breasts was difficult. But and then next to that, I am worried of governmental overreach, because they never waste a good crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I know here in America, if things got like if we entered a boog-like scenario, everybody has guns, and the violent like the violent stoppage of governmental overreach is kind of in our ethos, just based off how the country was incepted.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that in Norway? Like if things got violent, what do you think the overall reaction from the public would be?
I'm not really sure, because the major example of like a conflict where civilians actually stood up to the government here in Norway was during the Second World War. But the problem there is that Norway was occupied by the Nazis. So it's like, would people actually stand up against a government that speaks their own language and at least pretends to be Norwegian, although it's probably more Danish? And yeah, I'm not really sure if they would, but I'm pretty sure they would like stand up to any non-governmental sort of violence, because in their minds that would be like non-authorized.
Yeah. And now, what do they think of? What do Norwegians think of the UN? Like, let's say, for some reason, that the UN were more like established or whatever. They maybe sent some peacekeepers or whatever into Norway. What would their opinion of that be? No, well, actually, not the UN, the EU. My bad.
Right. Well, currently Norway is one of the few European countries that is not part of the EU itself. Although that's more of a technicality, because the politicians just made another deal that was pretty much the same, and just entered us into it because they wanted us in it. So we are sort of part of it, sort of not. I think definitely people would be more against EU peacekeepers than the Norwegian military doing some quote-unquote peacekeeping. But people in general are bootlickers.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what country. There's always going to be bootlickers.
Yeah. Except Somalia, apparently.
Well, they don't lick any boots.
Because they don't have any.
Oh.
Oh man, what was I about to say? Damn. I guess what I'm just worried about here is martial law. Like if they say, if there's like a mandatory curfew around the country, and like if they catch you out, you're arrested. I guess that might be like the biggest thing to happen. That isn't like happening in Congress, like Nancy Pelosi try to slip something into the coronavirus bill, and I guess that's the biggest thing, which I'm prepared for. But the measurement to take when that happens is what happens when the virus is taken care of, or like if it is taken care of, and everything points it to a 99% recovering rate or whatever, and very few people have it. What are they going to do then? How exactly do they stop the martial law and the curfew?
No is the answer there. They're not going to stop.
Yeah. They'll keep something.
I mean, isn't that how it went with like the what's it called, the employment taxation, like the income tax?
Yeah.
In the First World War and stuff like when they get some power, they're not going to willingly give it back, at least.
Yeah, well, that's that's what I meant about the like what's happening with our government as far as law goes, like adding amendments to bills. Like they're definitely not going to take that away if they slip anything in that nobody catches. But if they have like a martial law situation in the country, and then the virus is good and they keep it, that would go very poorly for them. That would be a very rash decision on the part of the government. That'd be a quick jump.
Do you know if there have been any martial law situations where, like in general in the country?
I don't know. I know that they're allowed to, but I don't know if it's ever happened.
Like in the
Let's
U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Katrina martial law?
Yeah, but in New Orleans, let's see. It says in Chicago after the Great Fire in 1871, San Francisco earthquake 1906, uh, Cambridge riot 1963. So it was so it's happened, but never countrywide.
Right. Because if they kept it like countrywide, yeah, people are probably gonna get a bit hot on the nerve, I guess.
I don't know if martial law is necessarily something that they would consider to be in their best interest in terms of like keeping it long term. Just for the simple fact that if you have a population that believes they're free and that they can go out and make a profit, then they're going to be more likely to work harder and make more money. Whereas, you know, a slave population or a population that regards themselves as, you know, just slightly above that or whatever is much less incentivized to actually go and be the most productive tax cattle that they can be, you know. And that's,
Yeah.
I think that's why you have these mixed economies or corporatist economies, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure that the second that most Americans believe they are not free, you're gonna boog. But
I would
because
hope so.
it's sort of like your thing, you know, believing you are free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
So in Norway, is there any sort of like culture of freedom or like anything that you can point to as, you know, this is our hope to live in a free society?
Hmm. I mean, I'm not really sure if there is any. I can think of a very good part that's like in the opposite direction, like where it would tend towards not being the case, and that's where the culture is pretty much completely against thinking of yourself in any way as better or more accomplished than other people. So it's called the law of Jante, which is it's sort of like don't think you're better than us. Don't think you can do anything by yourself. So it's so that is one big part of the culture that's antithetical to freedom in general. I don't know any right now things that would actually help freedom in the culture.
Well, I guess I'm just here to ask the depressing questions, right?
Yeah.
So
Would you
go ahead.
would you say that the culture in Norway is more individualistic or collectivist?
Like compared to the US, definitely more collectivistic. I mean, we have been ruled by socialists in large period of the country's existence, and it shows. It shows very much. People people generally have pretty collectivistic mindset, which, I mean, it's usually a combination of nationalism and globalism. Most political things people think about, right? They always think about we in any case. So yeah, compared to the US, it's definitely more collectivistic.
What about compared to the rest of Europe?
That's a good question. I mean, depending on the exact country, I would go with maybe a little bit more individualistic. It's one of the least densely populated countries on Earth, so it's so people are pretty independent, like in general, from most of the country. But it's still pretty collectivistic in most aspects.
Now, you said that socialists had kind of ruled your country for like quite a bit of the past century or whatever. Now, here in the United States, Bernie Sanders, as you know, often uses Scandinavian countries as the example of what his democratic socialist society would look like. But as we know, a lot of people know, countries like Denmark have actually come out and said, we're actually a capitalist economy, not socialist. But at the same time, there are, a lot of, there's like a, large social safety net. There's very expansive social programs. What would you say that the Norwegian economy looks like?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of the different terms, because we do have a almost completely nationalized healthcare system. While there are private hospitals, they are less common, and they are still heavily regulated and taxed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And all the rules regarding healthcare are, of course, government made. So that part is almost completely socialistic, but other parts, in general, small businesses are pretty much left alone, with one exception, and that's of course the massive tax burden that the state gives its citizens. So there are sort of different aspects of the economy that are more or less socialist, and others that are more or less, free, in quotes.
Yeah. Cotton, do you have any questions or?
No, I'm kind of I remember a week ago, maybe I was more worried about what they're going to do with the university. And now where I am, everything's canceled. I know the next step is businesses are going to start closing. And and like it. This is definitely. I made this argument to somebody earlier. This is probably like one of the top 10 craziest times to be alive. It was already kind of like that before all this virus stuff, but now with the virus, with the election, with uh, the markets, it's a crazy time, and it's not exactly like if everything did go down, this isn't exactly how many people thought it would, and it's kind of puzzling. I'm just trying to figure everything out and work on it because it's a very odd time, pretty unprecedented.
Yeah.
That wasn't a question, but
No,
I'm
yeah.
just my mind's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's crazy. Seems almost unreal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the reaction to this coronavirus is just like that we've like, yeah, you haven't seen anything like it, even with these different past pandemic scares, like the swine flu or the uh, SARS or whatever, right? The ones that have shown more lethality and you know s- uh, killed quite a few people, which I'm not really seeing this one as doing that quite yet. I'm not convinced on that. So just the reaction, uh, it's just interesting to see how we've come to the point where we can be pushed into this, just worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Into that reaction, and where we're gonna allow ourselves to be uh, sent home from the university, or uh, you know have a vacation, extended
Yeah.
vacation from our job, and
Yeah.
and no one's really fighting it so hard.
Yeah, because what is there to fight? There's unless you, of course, believe that the virus is actually completely made up by now. Seems less and less likely by every day, if you ask me.
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's real, but as to like what the effects are going to be, that's still up in the air,
Yeah.
just in my opinion. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting study on how much the government has a say in what shuts down, and how that's going to affect the whole economy, right?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, the black market has probably increased by several yeah times in some of the no shutdown businesses, like especially like hair salons and similar businesses where it's actually pretty easy to make it under the table. So yeah, so it's not like everything is controlled by the government. It's just everything that's considered to be like actually there, considered to be officially there, is controlled.
Yeah. So funny question, I guess. Have Norwegians been buying toilet paper?
Yeah. The day I went home to my parents, me and my mother started, essentially prepping by buying a lot of stuff, and we noticed in the grocery stores a lot of articles were missing, and toilet paper was one of those that was like missing or lacking at least, and like milk, I believe, and rice and potatoes. Yeah, potatoes too. So
What are the ammunition prices doing in Norway?
well, I don't know because I don't have any guns myself. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, I know when I get home, I'm going to zero in my rifle. Liberty Zero. This is the time when you're supposed to go. Oh, oh man! Can y'all not hear me?
No, I'm back.
Oh, I made the best joke ever.
Yeah, I heard
Yes.
it.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
sorry, I dropped temporarily. Yeah, I was about to say, we were talking about the economy and long term, if if it keeps going downhill, and obviously, in America, we think back to the '08 crash, and the different problems and challenges that brought to normal people. I was thinking earlier today, just about what I'm going to have to do to prepare for that. Um, whether that be taking a second job if I can find one, or uh, just reducing my expenses overall. Uh, is that something that you've been considering just over the long term?
Sorry, I didn't catch the last minute or so.
Oh,
Dropped out, sort of.
okay, yeah. I was just if the long-term effects on the economy continue, where we're experiencing more unemployment and just things like that, less overtime, stuff like that. Is that something that you've been considering in terms of what you're going to have to do?
If I've been considering what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can live off like just doing stuff that most people can do. Like I mentioned, fishing, and similar survival skills. Of course, you kind of have to bother unless, of course, it becomes like the Black Death, and enough people die that you can just go to the next house and take their stuff. So like, yeah, I don't supposed to do in a crisis situation in terms of actually getting stuff to the household. But I mean, I'm feeling sort of confident that I could do something.
Yeah. And then you said that you were in the last in your last year at university, right? Hello?
No, actually, I'm studying at. I don't really know what you would call it. It's sort of like it's like an off year, except it's not an off year. It's like a school that doesn't actually bring you any it doesn't give you any grade or anything, but it's generally like personal interest. So for instance, I'm studying music now in that sort of off year.
Okay. So
interesting. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna send it over to you.
Okay. Well, we should probably wrap up. I'm Cottonarchist. You can find me on Twitter at Cottonarchist.
And you can find me at Liberty Zero. And then if you want to plug your stuff, Tom.
Yeah, I'm Dark Tom Woods. You can find me on Twitter at Dark Tom Woods. Obviously, you can find my alternative account at Drill DRIL. I don't really have any other stuff currently, although I'm like probably gonna start a podcast too, because that's apparently a thing that literally every autistic person out there does.
That's right, man.
And everybody should follow him on Twitter. He's great. He's a great follower. He's a great follow.
Yeah.
And,
hey, man,
I was going to say you can find the links to all this stuff on dissectingliberty.com/13. And yeah, that's where all the show notes are. And y'all should join our Discord. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, we have Dark Tom Woods in our Discord, so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty big deal.
It is.
And we only had to pay him $10,000 to join.
He's got clout.
That's right.
Hey, man, we really enjoyed this, and we appreciate you coming on and just talking about current events and what you're doing to prepare.
Yeah, it's it was a nice chat. So yeah.
All right, man. We'll see you around.